Good afternoon, class. This is Unit 4, page 68, active versus passive voice. In the active voice, the subject of a sentence performs or does the action. Companies sometimes give free samples to customers. In the passive voice, the subject receives the action. Sometimes customers are given free samples to interest them. We form the passive voice with the verb be plus the past participle of the main verb. Only the verb be changes the show when the action happens. Our bodies are affected by our minds. These grapes were grown in Chile. How should these vegetables be cooked? We often use the passive voice to talk about processes or an action when the person doing the action is not important. Next, labels are attached to each can of vegetables. We use by with the passive voice when we want to specify who or what does the action. The blood samples were taken by nurses. So in the passive voice, who is doing the action is not as important. Oftentimes we see the subject switched, changed to be the object of the sentence. So for example, active versus passive voice. In the active voice, who does the action is important. So I cook pizza. In this case, the subject is going to be I. Cooked is the verb, and our object is pizza. Who cooked is more important than what was cooked. But in the passive voice, pizza was cooked by me. In this case, the subject is going to be pizza, right? And so you see here adding by me shows who cooked the pizza or who did the action, but more importantly, the subject in this case is pizza, right? The fact that pizza was cooked is more important than by who. And so same thing with the example here. The blood samples is the subject were taken by nurses. Okay. So again, in the passive voice, not as important as who does the action, but what action, the received action, right? And so I did my homework. So I is the subject, the verb did, and my homework. My homework was done by me. Essentially the same sentence, but as the sentences become more complex, the focus is more on the object, right? And so going a little further into this, in page 68 for ESL 310, more focus on the passive voice here. One second, I apologize. But in the passive voice, you can then give more information and focus on how or what the object, how the object was created or made. So page 68 for 310, we use the passive voice to focus attention on the person or thing that is affected by the action of the verb. It is often used when describing a process. The passive is formed with the verb be plus the past participle of a transitive verb. So a transitive verb is essentially, it shows the object, right? And so I taught the class. And so taught is a transitive verb because there is a clear object. This rock was formed millions of years ago. Tourists are not allowed to climb the peaks. So in this case, the because the rock is the object essentially, right? We are able to give more information of the rock. And so peaks, climbing the peaks here, tourists are not allowed to climb the peaks. So the past participle of the verbs formed, was and are is the verb be. And then we add the past participle for the transitive verbs formed and allowed. When it is important to include the person or thing doing the action, use a by phrase. This geological study was conducted by graduate students. Essentially, graduate students conducted a geological study, right? But in this case, what is more important than who conducted it is that a geological study was conducted. Note only the verb be changes to show when the action happens. So past, present, right? Future, was, were, am, is, are, will be. Okay, so hopefully this video helps for you to understand the active and passive voice. If you do have questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.